The gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Barr, is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and let me join my colleagues in commending our witness, Ms. Edie, for your courage in coming before us and sharing your personal story. And it shows a lot of fortitude to come before Congress and testify and share your personal story. It shows a lot of guts. And what it says about you and your character is that we know you and your husband, you can make it, you can do it. And we appreciate your testimony, and we know that hope is available to you because of your strength that we see. My question to you is that in addition to housing assistance that you're asking for, would it be helpful to also have an advocate for you, someone that you can talk to in addition to housing and help you with job counseling, financial literacy programming for you and your family? Would it be helpful if you also had some additional services that could connect you with other services in addition to the housing assistance?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Barr. Anything that will be an asset for us to be able to come back into the community to make sure that we are, I'm sorry, I'm just losing my train of thought. Make sure that we can succeed in this. Of course, we want an advocate to be able to help us with our financials and job, descriptions or anything to do with that. Of course, we need advocates to speak up for us and teach us how to be literate with our finances and everything. Anything that will help us be an asset to the community.
And you are an asset to the community, and I can see that. And I'm not saying this applies to you, but others who have difficulty with homelessness or living in their vehicles and not having a home, some of them have substance abuse challenges or mental illness issues. Not saying that applies to you, but do you think it would be helpful for them to, in addition to have housing, connect them with the mental health services or the substance abuse counseling? Would that be helpful to them?
Yes, it would be.
Great. Let me ask Mr. Holtz-Eakin a question about Chair Waters' Down Payment Towards Equity Act, which would spend $100 billion, essentially no strings attached checks of $25,000 that potential homebuyers could use towards a down payment on a home. Let's analyze the effects that this would have on a macro level. Would legislation like this contribute to home price inflation?
Yes.
Let's talk about it in combination with Fed policy right now, the tightening program that the Fed is engaged in. As the Fed is actively trying to tamp down soaring home prices by increasing interest rates to reduce demand, would legislation like the chair's work directly against the Fed's goal of reducing demand?
Yes, and most likely what would happen is the Fed would be more aggressive. Overall home purchases would be continue to decline because that's what the necessary objective for them. This might change the composition of who gets the house.
So demand-side subsidies would actually increase the likelihood that the Fed would have to be even more aggressive in raising interest rates and borrowing costs.
Yes, absolutely.
And would legislation like this result in a greater supply of housing or simply more demand for the same limited resource?
The latter. It's not a supply-targeted policy.
So while maybe not as flashy as handing out $25,000 taxpayer-funded checks so wealthy individuals could buy million-dollar homes, what are some of the serious proposals that Congress should be considering to actually increase our housing supply and address this affordability issue?
As I mentioned earlier, the tax incentives to increase construction, I think, make sense over the long term. You want to have a predictable, reliable environment that provides supply at a lower cost. So lightening the regulatory burdens at the local level, if you have a way to influence that, do it. There are tariff policies in place from the federal government that are raising the cost of construction and construction goods. That would be a sensible thing that could be reduced. And, The low-income housing tax credit's not perfect, but it's a thing.
Yeah, and to your point, and in my remaining time, I'll just point out a 2021 study by the National Association of Home Builders found that basic regulatory costs add $93,800 to the price of a new home. Do you support federal efforts to remove some of that regulatory burden to amplify the supply?
I think that's a sensible idea. I don't know how you can do it, and so I'd be happy to work with you on that.
Okay, my time has expired. I yield back.
Thank you. The gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Himes, who is also the chair of the Subcommittee on National Security.